You've sat in that salon chair, said just a trim, and walked out looking 10 years older than when you walked in. It happens more than anyone talks about. And it's not your fault. Most stylists are trained to play it safe, not to think about what your face actually needs at this point in your life. They give you what's easy to cut, not what's going to make you turn heads. Here's what I know. The right haircut doesn't just frame your face, it shifts how your whole energy reads. People look at you differently. You stand a little taller. That's not vanity. That's the real effect of a cut that actually works for you. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50, so you get real results fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week. Part 1: The Layered Bob. Most women think length is what keeps them looking young. Cut it short, they worry, and suddenly you look like you've given up. But here's the thing nobody tells you straight. It's not the length that ages you, it's the weight. Heavy one-length hair drags the eye downward. And as we get older, our faces naturally lose volume in the upper cheeks and temples. A blunt heavy cut pulls attention exactly to the areas we want lifted. It doesn't matter if the hair is long or short. If it's sitting flat against the sides of your face with no movement, it's working against you. That recognition lands differently when you actually feel it. You've probably sensed it, that flatness, that slightly tired look in the mirror, without being able to name what was causing it. The fix is a layered bob, specifically one with face framing layers that start at the cheekbone and move outward and upward. What that does is completely reframe your face. The eye is pulled up toward your cheekbones, and your eyes, instead of being dragged downward by a solid curtain of hair, the structure around your face lifts. That tired quality dissolves. When you're in the salon chair, here's exactly what to say. I want a bob with long face framing layers. I want the shortest layer to start at my cheekbone and angle out toward my ear. Keep some length at the back, but add texture through the ends, not the roots. That last part matters. A lot of stylists add layers by thinning through the midsection, which creates frizz and removes body. Texture through the ends keeps volume where you need it. The snapback moment is this. When those layers fall around your cheekbones, people stop reading your face as tired. You'll have people comment that you seem, and this word comes up constantly, refreshed. Not younger exactly. Refreshed. Like you've just had 3 weeks of good sleep. That's the visual shift a layered bob creates. For maintenance, go in every 6 to 8 weeks, just to refresh the ends and keep those face framing layers sharp. The layered bob grows out beautifully if you're keeping it trimmed, but once those face framing layers lose their angle, the whole effect softens. That's the one thing to stay on top of. Part 2 is where a lot of women get genuinely surprised, because the next cut on this list is one most people over 50 have been actively told to avoid. And that advice is completely backwards. Part 2: The Textured Pixie Cut. Here's the piece of advice that's been aging women over 50 for decades. Don't go too short or you'll look older. It sounds protective. It's not. It's just wrong. And I say that with complete confidence because the science of facial structure says the opposite. Your facial bone structure doesn't change much with age. Your cheekbones, your jaw, your brow, those are what they are. What changes is the tissue around them. Volume shifts, skin softens at the jawline. A longer, heavier style often hides your bone structure entirely. A well-cut pixie does the opposite. It puts your cheekbones and your eyes front and center, and those are your strongest features. You've probably seen a woman pull off a pixie and thought, she looks incredible, and then talked yourself out of trying it. This is the part where I tell you, you were right the first time. The textured pixie is the fix. Not a cropped, severe pixie. I'm talking about one with movement. Slightly longer on top, soft texture through the crown. A little bit of weight kept near the temples so the cut frames the upper face rather than exposing everything at once. The nape is clean and close, which actually elongates the neck. That detail alone makes you look more elegant immediately. When you sit in the chair, say this. I want a textured pixie. I want length on top, roughly 2 to 3 inches, with piecewise texture cut in. Keep some weight at the temples. Clean and close at the nape. I don't want it scissor set smooth. I want movement when it dries naturally. That last instruction is important. A pixie that's been smoothed flat reads as severe. The same cut with natural texture reads as modern and effortless. Here's the snapback moment. A woman I know, a retired teacher, 67, silver hair, had been wearing a shoulder-length blunt cut for 15 years. She switched to a textured pixie at her stylist's strong suggestion. The first week back at her book club, 3 women asked if she'd done something different. One of them said, "You look like yourself, but more." That's it. That's what the right pixie does. It doesn't change you, it clarifies you. The maintenance rhythm for a textured pixie is every 4 to 5 weeks. Not because it grows out badly, but because once it starts losing that shape at the nape and temple, it shifts from polished to overgrown. Keep it on a consistent schedule, and it stays sharp with almost no daily effort. The third haircut on this list is one that almost every woman has tried at some point, but most have had it cut completely wrong, which is why it didn't work. Part 3, the long bob lob, with internal layers. The lob has been everywhere for years. And because of that, it's also become one of the most watered down, badly executed cuts in salons everywhere. Women over 50 try it, it doesn't work, and they conclude the lob isn't for them. The lob isn't the problem. The version they got is. Here's what almost no stylist explains before cutting it. The lob as it's usually done, collarbone length, all one weight line, maybe a few face framing pieces, is designed for younger faces with fuller cheeks. That built-in volume creates the soft contour the cut relies on. After 50, when the natural volume in the mid-face shifts, that same cut falls flat in a very specific way. Not unflattering across the board, just flat. And flat reads as dated. The version that actually works for us is the lob with internal layers. Not face-framing layers added on top. Layers built into the interior of the cut, distributed from underneath. Internal layers do something different from surface layers. They create movement and volume from underneath the hair structure, which means the outside of the cut looks smooth and polished, but the hair actually moves, has body, and doesn't cling flat to your neck and jaw. That movement underneath is what your face needs. Not drama on the surface. Life underneath. In the chair. I want a lob, collarbone to just below the jaw. I want internal layers, cut from underneath, not surface face framing. I want the outside line to stay clean. I don't want the ends thinned, just internal movement. And can you show me the interior layers before you finish the outside? That last question is not asking for permission, it's asking for precision. A stylist who knows what they're doing will appreciate it. The snapback is immediate. Internal layers let the hair move away from the face naturally. You stop looking like the lob is framing you in a box. People read your face first, the hair second. That reordering of attention is what makes the difference between a cut that works and one that just sits there. For upkeep, every 8 weeks is enough. The internal layers grow out slowly, and the outside line stays clean between visits. This is actually one of the lowest maintenance cuts on this list, which surprises most women who try it, because the result looks like it cost effort. What comes next on this list is a cut that sounds very niche, until you see what it does to a face with fine or thinning hair. Then it's hard to imagine going back. Part 4, the French bob. Most women over 50 have never heard of the French bob by name. But the moment you see it, you recognize it. You've probably noticed it on someone and thought, there's something incredibly chic about her, without being able to say exactly what. The French bob is usually what that is. Here's the fact. This cut was developed specifically around the idea that face framing should work with the jaw, not fight it. It sits at jaw length or just above, shorter than a classic bob, longer than a pixie, with soft movement that either turns under slightly or curls gently outward. The defining detail is that the hair barely touches the face. It floats at the jaw, and that floating distance is doing something very specific. It creates the visual impression of a lifted jawline without a single cosmetic procedure. After 50, the jaw and neck area is often the feature women feel most self-conscious about. This cut reframes all of that completely. The fix is having your stylist cut the French bob with one very specific instruction. The back should be cut slightly shorter than the front. The front pieces should reach the jaw. The back should sit about half an inch above the nape. This creates a subtle A-line shape from behind, which is what gives the front pieces their characteristic float. Without that back graduation, you just have a chin-length bob. With it, you have a French bob. Say this in the chair. I want a French bob, jaw length in front, back cut shorter, about ½ inch, so the front floats rather than sits. I want a little movement through the ends, not rigid, not curled under tightly, just soft. And then the key instruction. I want it to look effortless when it air dries, not styled into submission. That tells your stylist to cut for your natural texture, not against it. The snapback. The floating jaw length hemline draws the eye upward, toward the cheekbones, the eyes, the whole upper face. The jawline and neck become a non-issue. This cut literally redirects where people look when they look at you. And it does it without anyone being able to name why you look so good. They'll just know that you do. Because the French bob relies on that jaw to nape graduation. It needs a trim every 5 to 6 weeks to keep the geometry intact. Let it grow out without a trim and the float disappears. Keep it trimmed and it's one of the most consistently elegant cuts a woman over 50 can carry. The fifth cut on this list is different from everything we've covered. It's not a length choice, it's a texture decision. And it's the one that transforms fine hair more dramatically than anything else on this list. Part 5. The shaggy layered cut for fine hair. If your hair is fine, and after 50, more women's hair is fine than ever talk about it openly. You've probably spent years trying to add volume through products, tools, and techniques that work for about 4 hours and then collapse. The problem isn't the products. The problem is the cut. Fine hair doesn't need to be coaxed into looking fuller. It needs to be cut in a way that creates the structural illusion of volume directly, with no product doing the heavy lifting. Most stylists, when working with fine hair, reach for the same instinct. Take weight out of the ends to reduce the appearance of limpness. That's backwards. Removing weight from fine hair ends makes it look thinner. You end up with straggly, wispy ends with no body and no presence. The actual fix is concentrated, intentional layering through the crown and midsection, which is what the shaggy layered cut does. This cut keeps weight distributed intelligently and lets fine hair fall into layers that look purposeful rather than sparse. The shaggy layered cut works by distributing multiple layers through the crown and midsection of the hair, with each layer landing at a slightly different length, typically ranging from just above the cheekbone down to the collarbone. The key is that the layers are cut with a razor or point cut technique at the ends, not blunt. Blunt ends on fine hair look flat. Razored or point cut ends on fine hair look intentionally textured. Like the style was chosen, not compensated for. When you're in the salon, say this: I have fine hair and I want a shaggy layered cut. I want layers distributed from the crown through the midsection, landing at different lengths. I don't want blunt ends. I want the ends razored or point cut. I want the whole thing to look deliberately textured, not like it's trying to hide thin hair. That last sentence is the most important thing. It tells the stylist you want a style built for fine hair, not a workaround. The snapback. Women with fine hair who get this cut for the first time often say it's the first time in years they felt like their hair looks intentional. Not styled into submission. Not carefully managed. Actually, genuinely styled. People stop noticing the hair's texture and start noticing the overall impression, which is of a woman who knows exactly who she is. That shift in how you're perceived happens because the cut does the work instead of you fighting your own hair every morning. For maintenance, the shaggy layered cut needs a trim every 6 to 8 weeks. Not to stay short, but to keep the layers fresh. When the razored ends start to grow out without being refreshed, they lose their intentional texture and drift back toward wispy. A quick refresh trim keeps the whole thing looking deliberate. Style it with a small amount of volumizing mousse through damp hair, diffuse on low heat, and don't touch it until it's fully dry. That's the whole routine. Less than most women spend trying to make their old cut work. You now have 5 haircuts that actually work for where you are right now. The layered bob that lifts your cheekbones, the textured pixie that clarifies your bone structure, the internal layer lob that creates movement without drama, the French bob that redirects every eye in the room upward, and the shaggy layered cut that finally makes fine hair feel intentional. That's not a small list. That's a complete toolkit. You don't need to try all 5. You just need the one that fits your face. And now you know what to ask for. Tell me in the comments. Which of these cuts are you most curious to try? Or which one have you had before that either worked or didn't? I read everything. Next week I'm covering the 5 styling mistakes women make after getting a great haircut that undo all the work, because the cut is only half of it. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.